Hey YouTube, the Stuttgart Regional Championship is on right now, and this is the last championship regional before a changeover in the move sets, like the buffs and nerfs. So what I want to do is look at this from two perspectives. One is if you're grinding these last 2 days, what is on this list that you think is going to be that can still do well, that you can maybe think about using, and then two, what's on this list that I think is going to be even stronger next season or weaker next season, and why. So as you can see, here are the top, I think there's 16 people here. Yeah, 16 winners bracket, losers bracket, and then the 13th, 16th, and whatever place here, 9 to 12th. So at the top, you can look through each individual teams, but the percentages, because I just did quick numbers, I just kind of counted the top 16. 75 and 75 for Clodsire and Azumarill. Azumarill is on 11 out of these 16 teams, and Clodsire is on 13 out of the 16. So it's not, these percentages are not based on the top 16. They're based on the percentages of the people who use them in the entire championships. So what do we see here? Azumarill and Clodsire are the number one at 75%. So Clodsire is not surprising to me, right? Clodsire is one of the bulkiest Pokemon. It's rank 1 in the GBL. It's one of the bulkiest Pokemon. It's got some decent spam for it, considering how much bulk it has. It's got nice coverage. You can have flyer coverage. You can have grass coverage. You can have steel coverage. It's just a super strong Pokemon. We know that. And being on 13 out of the 16 teams here is not surprising. Azumarill at 75% kind of was surprising, but then I thought about it more, and it's not that surprising when you look at the meta here, right? What do you have here? You have Clodsire. Yes, if Clodsire has Sludge Bomb, it's worse. It's a bad matchup for you. But if it has Stone Edge Earthquake, you got a good matchup. You then have for Alligators, kind of an evenish matchup where you get off neutral play roughs and they get off resisted Hydros, but your Bubble's resisted and their Shadow Claw is neutral. So it's a kind of a neutralish matchup. But then you have Moltres. You'll win there. Superior, you're obviously going to lose, but at least you have Ice Beam. Dunsparce, neutralish, but you win. Primeape, resisted. Obviously, Ariados with Poison and Grass is super bad for you, but good matchup in Dugong, good matchup in Diggersby, good matchup like decent in Gastrodon, and good in Marowak. So it makes sense, right? You have your main flyers in Moltres there and Mandibuzz, and then you have your just normal like Safe Swaps in Dugong and Clodsire and Dunsparce, and then you got the fighters out there. Primeape, interesting to see Annihilate as opposed to Primeape, I guess, just with that extra ghost typing. Not worried about not worried about the new Egglocke Pokemon, I guess. So it's not surprising there's Zuma's top. For Alligator, we know is one of the best Safe Swaps. Shadow, 100% people who use the Shadow version just because the Shadow is so much better with the Hydro. A couple of 50%. Galarian, Moltres, and Superior. Again, Superior is such a strong Pokemon because there's not a ton of flyers in this meta, but there is a lot of water and ground. So Superior is just a nice answer. Moltres is... I guess I shouldn't be surprised that more people are using Moltres over Mandibuzz, given that you can nuke with Brave Bird, and if you in a build 6, if you like build it with some bulky Pokemon, you can just like offset that. So I guess it makes sense. And then Dunsparce, great Safe Swap. Dugong, great Safe Swap. Ariados is kind of like your kind of sneaky Azumarill coverage, and you have your spammy, and you got some grass coverage with your bug if you want to. So it's kind of a sneaky Pokemon there. And again, Annihilate. I think people are going. Why are more people going Annihilate than Primeape? I think you get a couple things with Annihilate, even though it's ranked lower. I think you get the bulk, and I think that ghost typing actually helps you out, right? Because you do see some other fighters in Primeape. I was going to say, not that Dark is an issue because Dark isn't much of an issue, but you still neutralize it anyways. And I guess, I don't know. I think it's just like the more bulk on it, and you still get the Rage Fist. And counter's still like it's nerfed, but it's still good, and there's still a lot of things weak to counter, right? Look on this list. Dunsparce, Dugong, Diggersby. All weak to fighting. So having a counter user which actually does more damage than Karate Chop is pretty good. And then Gastrodon and Marowak rounds out your grounds to deal with like Clodsire. So for this current meta, I think all these Pokemon make sense. You have one thing I did notice on this list is way more bulk than Glass Cannon, right? For Alligator, Moltres, and Ariados, I put as your sort of Glass Cannons. Marowak, I put as in your sort of neutral, and even Gastrodon as your like neutral Pokemon. But then Azumarill, Clodsire, Superior, Dunsparce, Annihilate maybe more neutral, but Annihilate has some bulk to it. Dugong, Diggersby, all very bulky Pokemon, right? So you kind of got that like a lot of bulk in this top here. And I always say, if you watch this channel for a while, bulk is better. Bulk allows you to move around a lot. But it's not just the bulk, right? It's bulky Pokemon that can still spam at an okay rate, like Clodsire, Dunsparce, Superior, Diggersby. They can all spam at an okay rate. Dugong's a little bit slower. Obviously, Azumarill's a little slower too, but having bulk, which can also somewhat spam, I think is a great combo. So if you looked at my team that went from 2500 to 2950, it kind of had this concept. It was Mandibuzz, Dunsparce, and Feraligatr. So you had Feraligatr, which is your super spammy, hard-hitting Pokemon. And then you had Dunsparce and Mandibuzz as bulkier Pokemon that can also still spam. So you can kind of do that combo with sort of these three here, something like that. Go Ariados, Diggersby, and a third, right? And you can do something like that, and I think it could potentially work. So season turnovers in a couple days. What is going to happen to this list in a couple days, just in the Play Pokemon Championship, and what's going to happen in the Great League meta? I think so. There's a couple things that got buffed, and the first thing that got buffed that's now a bunch in the top 50 is Electric. So if we assume that Electric's going to be out there more, 3 of your first 4 Pokemon are weak to Electric. Azumarill, Feraligatr, and Moltres are weak to Electric. So perhaps, and Dugong is on this list too, right? So there's generally water has been roaming free in this meta for a long time. In fact, it was kind of pathetic that like 3 seasons ago, however when it was, when you had like all the Mud Boys, Swampert, Whiscash, Quagsire, and you had Lantern, and you had Azumarill, and you had one grass Pokemon in the top 50, because despite there being like 10 waters in the top 25, Poliwrath, despite 10 waters in the top 25, grass was so bad that it was just nowhere to be found. And same thing here, right? You got Azumarill number 1, Feraligatr at number 3. Dugong is ice, I understand that. But then you have Diggersby weak to grass, Marowak weak to grass. So you have 5 things on this list weak to grass, yet you only have one grass Pokemon in the top 10 uses, right? Because grass is just not a good typing. So with Electric being buffed, you now have a little more things that can scare water. Now, don't get me wrong. There's still Mud Boys here. Gastrodon's on this list. Quagsire is still out there as well. So there's still Mud Boys that will resist the Electric. But I think water in general should see a slight dip. Again, I don't expect it to be a huge dip, but I do expect there to be a little bit of dip. However, that is offset with Clodsire not getting any sort of nerfs, and Diggersby getting a buff. I expect that 16.7 Diggersby to go up close to 40 to 50% at the next regional championship. So I'm gonna go on the record right now and say you will see a significant increase in Diggersby with the buff to Fire Punch, which just gives you an answer right away, and a buff to Electrics, which you will double resist. So I expect Diggersby at 16.7 there to be closer to 50% at the next regional. So yeah, I'd say Azumarill goes down. I say Clodsire 75%, probably around the same, maybe even a slight tick up. Maybe, you know what, I'll say the same, because if I'm going to see more Diggersby, I'll probably see maybe a little less Clodsires. So maybe around 75, maybe, I don't know, plus or minus 5% on that. Feraligatr about the same, but probably slightly down. Again, all the flyers probably slightly down. I think Superior is a super strong one, and I wouldn't be surprised if I see Superior above the 50% because of grass resists electric. So grass resists electric, and then you have more Diggersby because Diggersby got buffed, and you do super effective against the ground there. So I think, and you still have the Mud Boys, you still have Gastrodon and Marowak still there as an answer to the electric. So I think Superior is probably going to see even more play next season. So Azumarill slightly down, Clodsire about the same, Feraligatr maybe slightly down, Moltres slightly down. Up on Superior, I'm going to say almost the exact same on Dunsparce. If anything, I think Dunsparce is maybe going to be like a couple percentages. Let's say about the same. Because you still have maybe more Diggersby, but with the electric is weak to ground, and you do have the drill runs. And again, yes, Primeape and Annihilape did not get the Rage Fist nerf. If that did get nerfed, then Dunsparce would be even higher. But without the nerf, only one weakness in fighting. Still not a lot of fighters. Yes, there's some fighters in Primeape and Annihilape. And I was going to say Machamp, but not really. It's Annihilape and Primeape, quite honestly. So I think Dunsparce will stay around the same. I think Ariados is going to increase a bit because you have a couple of things happening. You have good coverage with grass for Trailblaze for your Pokemon that are going to cause you problems. The three at the bottom there that resist the poison, the Marowak, Gastrodon, Diggersby that resist the poison, will take super effective against the grass. So having that grass is great. You also usually run it with, I think, Lunge. And now, we haven't even talked about the new Pokemon getting buffed. But like Starmie is one of them where you would hit super effective against Starmie with the bug. I don't think Starmie is going to be as used, but I just think that like the spamminess, I think Ariados is going to take a slight bump up. Dugong, I would say maybe a slight... I'm going to say Dugong's going to be about the same. I think Primeape is going to be... I kind of glossed over Annihilape. I think Annihilape and the fighters, there's only such a limited fighters, and you need them to keep in check for all these things weak to fighting. I think Primeape and Annihilape are going to still... You'll see a heavy dose of them. I'm actually 16.7% is actually quite small. I'm actually quite surprised there. And then Dugong is an interesting one because electric obviously makes it a little more scary. You do have drill run for the electric, so you do have some coverage, but you probably get one shot by a lot of these wild charge electric users. At the same time, you're going to see a rise in Diggersby. And so if you see a rise in Diggersby and potentially Superior and Clodsire is still there, you know, it's still a really good answer. That's why I think a Sandslash is not on this list, but I imagine a Sandslash is going to be everywhere as well next season. So those are my sort of like guesses of how the meta is going to shift a little bit, especially if like Ariados is there. You resist all of Ariados' move with A-Slash while still dealing with all these things that are weak to ice. So I think A-Slash is going to get a slight bump next season too. So that's my guess going into next season. It was just kind of interesting when I just saw these teams. We can look at the individual teams here quickly. Maybe I'll cover my face and make these a bit bigger so you can just see them a little more. Inadequate's going with the Fortress just to say that he can. But again, otherwise, a lot of just like really glassy team overall. Shadow Drifblim, Primeape, Marowak, and Shadow Marowak and Shadow Feraligatr. That's a pretty glassy team, but you know, Inadequate Stone Collection off the bat top. There's your Shadow Drapion, Azumarill, Clodsire, Bulk. 4 water type Pokemon with Stone Collection. Look at that. Azumarill, Gastrodon, Dugong, Feraligatr. 4. This is how much people do not respect grass in this meta. And you have Drapion and Clodsire to deal with it. But this is how not respected electric and grass are in the current state of this meta, right? It's Greninja, super glassy, but again, one other wow, holy old school. Greninja here. You got a Skarmory here. You got a Charjabug here. Very last season. What is this 6 Pokemon? Is that Shadow Typhlosion? Maybe Shadow Typhlosion there as the 6th for PvP David, but you know, Azumarill, Diggersby, Toxapex, Annihilape, Moltres, some of the same old. I'm seeing if there's like any Pokemon on this list that like really catch me. No, but again, wow. PvP David, is this the exact same team? PvP David and Colin 6 with the exact same team and kind of unique. Azumarill, Diggersby, Toxapex, Annihilate, Galarian Moltres, and Shadow Typhlosion. Really weird to see the same team unless they were just like friends and gonna come in with the same thing there. There's your Ariados, there's your Dunsparce, there's your same old. A second Skarmory. Okay, what do you guys know what I don't know? Let me think about that as I go through the list. Shadow Dragonite, Snorlax. That's kind of a fun, interesting one. But otherwise, you're just looking at a bunch of top meta Pokemon. So, 2 Skarmories and 2 Shadow Typhlosions that are a little different. So, what does Skarmory... Oops, and I moved my background, so that's unfortunate. So what does Skarmory and Shadow Typhlosion do for you? Typhlosion is kind of an interesting one with so much ground in the meta and so much water in the meta, right? You do have Thunder Punch on the Typhlosion, and Blast Burn does nuke a lot of things, but there is just a lot of ground. I mean, ground doesn't resist fire, so that's still just neutral, but you do take Super Effective from ground. And then there is a lot of water, but you do have maybe, I don't know, it's very, very glossy. 2 Skarmories. 2 Skarmories is interesting. I think it gets by again. I think it won't be there next season if you see even more electric. But Skarmory, besides getting nerfed, was punished a lot last season by Lantern. But Lantern's nowhere to be found because Lantern got nerfed. And it does do this meta is kind of looking for flyers, right? And I think why it's probably doing so well is because there's so many grounds. There's not a lot of electric. You neutralize any sort of rock on Dunsparce because you're half steel. And there's so many grounds in this meta. And there's so much that steel just resists. That flying steel combo has always been Skarmory's strength. And being able to be one of the only flyers in this meta, hit super effective against the fighters, resist the ground, not need to worry about electric. It still makes sense. I mean, I haven't played it since Steelwind got nerfed, so I don't know how it plays, but I think in theory, given the state of the meta, it does make sense. Anyways, I just saw this. I was kind of racking my brain. I was actually not going to shoot a video this afternoon because I do not have any more battles. I have not played. I mentioned yesterday, I got to do 50 more battles in 3 days. I haven't even opened the game, like GBL today. I downloaded TCG Pocket. TCG Pocket. Started playing. Realized this is definitely a different strategy and game that I'm used to. So if you have any tips on like videos I should read, videos I should watch, or articles I should read on giving me like the one-on-one of like strategy and stuff, let me know, because I am so lost. Like I did like some solos and I was like, okay, this is easy. And then as soon as I started playing people, I was just like, oh no, I'm not good at this. So could use some help on like learning the game. But yeah, I'm doing that more instead of Pokemon Go. And I don't really want to do TCG videos here, TCG Pocket videos here. If I get like really into it, maybe I'll do like another channel on it. I just don't think like this is definitely a Pokemon Go channel. I don't really want to start doing other videos because then it kind of blends the line and people get bored of. I just don't want to. Let's just keep this Pokemon Go channel. If I want to do another Pocket channel, I'll do it on another channel. Anyways, that is it. Hope you had a good weekend. Thanks for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.